Hi guys, welcome to the fourth grade read aloud. I wanted to make sure that everybody has something to write with and a piece of paper to write on, because there's going to be some times when you have to write down a response. So make sure, I'll give y'all a second to make sure everybody has that. Alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with you guys. All right, can y'all give me a thumbs up if you can see that? Perfect. Okay. So again, welcome to Virtual Read Aloud with Miss Starkey. We're going to be going to the next chapter, chapter 26 of Out of My Mind. All right, so I just wanted to take a second and recap a little bit from our chapter 25 from yesterday. Some of the things that happened was Melody's team won the competition, which was so exciting for everyone. And then it went on to show that Claire was embarrassed by the way Melody lost control of her body when she got excited about winning the competition. And if we remember, Claire wasn't very nice about it either. The reporters that were there were wanting to interview Melody, but Claire tried to steal the show. She kind of got jealous that the spotlight wasn't on her. So she started saying that she had a better friendship with Melody than she did, and she was completely dishonest about that. It was right about there where the chapter ended. So for starting our next chapter, I wanted to have you guys start thinking about a time when you felt embarrassed or uncomfortable in front of a group of people. And I want you to take a minute or two and write down your thoughts about a time you were embarrassed or uncomfortable and how did you handle that situation. So I'll give you all a few minutes to do that. Okay, well, as we get into chapter 26, we're going to find that a couple of the characters find themselves embarrassed, and they have experiences where they definitely feel uncomfortable. And we're going to compare and contrast those situations. So I wanted to bring us back to make sure everybody understood the difference between compare and contrast. Can anybody share with me what it means to compare two things? Michaela, if you want to unmute yourself.
To compare two things is like the same things.
Okay, very good. It's when you look at two things, two characters, two situations, and you think about how are those things the same. Okay, very good. So comparing is figuring out how two things are the same. Could be two or more things, actually. What about contrast? Can anybody share with me what you think it means to contrast? I'll give you a clue. It's the opposite of compare. Anybody share with me their thoughts, excuse me, on contrasting?
Autumn is raising your hand.
Oh, okay, Autumn.
That are different.
Say it louder, Autumn.
Things that are different.
Absolutely. Contrasting is looking at how things are different. Could be two or more things that you are contrasting. So once again, comparing is how things are the same. Comparing is how things are the same, and contrasting is looking at how those things are different. Very good. Okay. All right. So before we start reading the chapter, if you are live, then you want to make sure you have something to write with and on, which I think you already did because you did that in your pre-write. But if you're at home watching this on YouTube, make sure you have something to write with and on, because at the end, we'll have a little exercise that I want you to write up and then email your responses in. If you are on here live, please have listening ears and patient voices, which you guys are doing a great job raising your hand and taking turns talking. I appreciate that. If you want to take notes to look back at, because I'm going to read it out loud, we won't have it on the screen. So if you want to write some of your thoughts down as you go, that's an awesome thing to do. And then let me know if you have any questions as we go, and enjoy the chapter. So as we start looking, going into chapter 6, I want you to think about, okay, your job for this chapter is to think about how Melody and Claire feel during and after their dinner celebration. Because remember we talked about comparing and contrasting? We're going to compare and contrast Melody and Claire and their experiences when the team goes out to dinner, because they both find themselves in embarrassing situations. Okay, so I want to take a second and talk about the word predicting. Okay, predicting, if we remember, is when we use our background knowledge, okay, what we already know up here, and we use things that we already know from the text, the characters, previous chapters, and we make a prediction about what we think might happen next, which is like a best guess. Okay, so I want you to take a second and think about what you think might happen next in chapter 26. And I'll give you a little clue. The team is about to go out to dinner to celebrate, and I want you to think about some of the things that might happen as they go out to dinner as a team with everybody together. Does anybody have any thoughts using your background knowledge and things you already know from the text? Any guesses? Just best guesses. There's no right or wrong. Just think about something that might make sense about what might happen next. And if anybody wants to share, if you'll let me know. What are some things that could happen when they go out to dinner as a team that might feel embarrassing? Okay, Caesar?
Maybe because somebody can't, or she has a disability where she can't eat properly.
Oh, I like that. Very good, very good. And that you already knew from reading before, okay? So you used your background knowledge of the character to make that prediction, which is an excellent prediction. Anybody else have anything to share before we start? Michaela, what do you think?
I think that Melody might still be excited that she won, and she might go like overboard and start moving around with her body.
Right, because that happened in the chapter before. That was an excellent prediction as well. Anybody else have one? All right, well, we will move on. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so chapter 26. All right, in the midst of all of the commotion, Dr. Deming seemed to get an inspiration. Let's go out to dinner to celebrate, he announced, as the last of the studio lights were turned off. Great idea, Connor said immediately. I'm starving, said Amanda. Even though I wasn't on camera, I've been too nervous to eat all day. Me too, Elena added. How about linguinis, Connor suggested. They've got all-you-can-eat spaghetti. Leave it to Connor to know all the best places to eat. They might go out of business after you show up, Connor, Mr. Deming said with a laugh. Don't go embarrassing me now. Don't worry, Mr. D. My max is about 12 bowls of spaghetti. Linguini is perfect, Rose's dad said. It's walking distance, just around the corner from the studio. These kids deserve a special night out. I looked at Mom, not sure if this was a good idea. Then Elena walked over to me and said, You'll come too, won't you, Melody? Yeah, Melody, Rose added, come with us. You did really great tonight. We couldn't have won without you, Connor said as he buttoned up his coat. The words made me feel like one of the helium balloons that some families had brought. Well, I wouldn't go that far, Molly said, glancing at Claire. Balloons do pop. You weren't up there, Connor reminded Molly. So you coming or not? Rose asked. Sure, I tapped. It will be fun. I glanced at Mom again, who nodded. Dad took Penny home, and Mrs. V gave me a hug and promised that she would see me in the morning. The air was brisk and the conversation silly as we headed for the restaurant. How many windows do you think are in that office building? Connor shouted, pointing to the tallest one that we could see. 5,274, Rose answered. Man, you're good, Rodney said. How did you know that? How do you think I got on the quiz team? Rose told him. I've got smarts. She's just guessing, Molly told Rodney. You believe anything. The restaurant had been in that location for years. The outside entrance was designed to look like a bistro from a small Italian village. Painted grape leaves and tiny white lights decorated the bricks around the door. The door. When Connor's dad opened it for everyone to enter, Connor and Rodney bounded up the steps. The steps. 5 stone steps led upstairs to the dining area. Everyone, including Mr. Dimming, rushed past me and Mom. Finally, Connor's dad, the last to go up, looked at me, looked at the stairs, and the light bulb came on. Do you need some help? He asked. He was large like his son. I bet he could swallow a few bowls of pasta as well. Mom replied, would you be so kind as to ask an employee where their wheelchair ramp is located? As if glad to have something to do, Mr. Bates dashed up the steps. Mom and I sat there in the cold, alone. A waiter dressed in black rushed down moments later. I'm so sorry. We have an elevator in the back, but it went on the fritz this afternoon. The technician is coming to fix it first thing in the morning. So I wanted to take a second there and just pause for a minute, and I want to talk about a vocabulary word that I came across that I thought it was important to make sure that everybody understood what it meant. The word fritz, okay? That's something we don't see all the time when we read. I'm going to read that section again, and I want us to use our text clues to help us figure out what that word means. I'm going to read that paragraph again. A waiter dressed in black rushed down moments later. I'm so sorry. We have an elevator in the back, but it went on the fritz this afternoon. The technician is coming to fix it first thing in the morning. Okay, so go ahead and wave at me or unmute yourself and let me know what you think fritz might mean. The elevator went on the fritz. What do you think that means? Cesar, what do you think that means?
I think it means that the elevator broke in the morning and then the next morning it's going to be fixed.
Okay, you are correct. It was broken. How did you figure that out?
Because based off the sentence, me thinking of Fritz, it probably would have been the best sentence as describing as Fritz.
Absolutely, especially when the next sentence says the technician is coming to fix it. So we know if they have to come to fix it, it must be broken. Very good. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. Well, that is not going to help us tonight, is it? Mom told him. Her voice was tight, but not angry. I'll be glad to help you carry her up the steps, he offered. No, I tapped. My eyes begged Mom. Mom told him, just hold the door for us, young man. We'll be fine. He did just that. Mom turned her back to the stairs, got a good grip on my chair, tilted it back slightly, and took a deep breath. I was so glad that we had decided on the manual chair this morning. Mom gently rolled the back wheels up the edge of the first stone step. Pull, roll up, bump. First step. Pull, roll up, bump. Second step. Pull, roll up, bump. Third step. She paused and took another breath. We'd done this before, many times. Pull, roll up, bump. Fourth step. Pull, roll up, bump. Fifth step. Then we finally rolled into the dining room, which was crowded with noisy, laughing customers. Over here, Melody, Mr. Deming called as he saw us. Mom led me over to a very large table, and I was relieved to see that the group had left a spot for me. With all the kids on the team, plus their parents, we took up a big chunk of the table space in the place. In some restaurants, the tables are too low for my chair, but this time I was able to slide perfectly into place. Mom helped me take off my coat, then sat in the seat next to me. She gulped the water from her glass and asked for a refill. The waitress began to take orders. Rodney and his parents ordered a large mushroom and onion pizza. We're vegetarians, Rodney explained. I had no idea. Can I get a steak, Dad? Connor asked. His dad clapped him on the back. Sure, I think I'll have one myself. For this one night, you can get anything you want. Connor's eyes got large. Even a whole chocolate cake? You'll barf, boy, his dad replied. I want the pasta delight, Rose told the waitress, with extra cheese. Me too, said Amanda. May I have the spaghettis and meatballs, please? Elena asked. Claire and Molly both ordered lasagna. When the waitress got to me and Mom, I was ready. I'll have mac and cheese, please, I made Elvira say. The waitress looked a little surprised, since most of the machine was tucked under the table, but she was cool and acted as if she got orders from meta-talkers every day. Sure, hun, coming right up. You want some salad with that? No, thanks. She gave me a real big smile, then took Mom's order. Only my mom would order baked fish at an Italian restaurant. As we waited for our food, the cheerful mood continued. Our tables were covered with white paper instead of tablecloths, so everybody, including the adults, had been given crayons and markers. Look at this. I drew a giant monster rabbit, Connor said. He glanced at Rose's drawing, then added large green teeth to his own. And it's going to eat that wimpy bug that you just drew, he told her. Rose laughed. Well, this is a poisonous spider, and it's going to bite your silly old rabbit. Rodney and Connor then lined up all the salt and pepper shakers and started tossing sugar packets over the barricade with forks and spoons and catapults. But I noticed that Claire, who was sitting next to Rodney, was strangely quiet and didn't even pick up a crayon. Engage the enemy, Connor cried. Score! You weren't even in my territory, man. Besides, you tossed the pink fake sugar stuff. You only get half a point for that stuff. I sat and watched my teammates do such ordinary things like drawing and laughing, teasing and joking. I really tried hard to look like I was having fun too, but all I wanted to do was go home. So I want to stop there again, and I want to talk about Melody's feelings, taking us back to analyzing and looking at character feelings. Okay, here it specifically told us that she was trying to look like she was having fun, but she just wanted to go home. Does anybody have any thoughts on why you think Melody wanted to go home? I'm going to read that section again. I sat and watched my teammates doing such ordinary things like drawing and laughing, teasing and joking. What do you think, Cesar?
I think because she has a disability and she can't do as much things as her teammates can.
Right. If you noticed or if you heard, they were all doing ordinary things. Ordinary means like everyday things that we do every day and we don't even have to really think about it. Okay, drawing and laughing and teasing and joking with each other. But can she do those things?
No.
No. So she feels, like Cesar said, she has a disability and she's not able to do those things, so she feels uncomfortable and out of place. Does anybody else have anything to share on that part? Michaela, what do you think?
I think that she feels uncomfortable because, like Caesar says, she can't do what everybody else can.
Right, and it definitely makes her feel out of place, like she doesn't fit in. Okay, very nice. Thank you so much for your comments. We'll go ahead and we will continue. When the waitress finally brought the food, forks became important for eating, and the war ended suddenly. Conversation slowed down as everybody dug into their meals. Connor took a huge bite of his steak. This is the bomb, he said, with his mouth full. Mom's fish looked a little, well, fishy as she picked at it with her fork. She and I were thinking the same thing. I knew it. My food sat untouched in front of me. Our family goes to restaurants every once in a while. Actually, Penny is more of a problem in a restaurant than I am, because she is wiggly and excitable, and she's likely to throw her peas on the floor. Usually, eating out doesn't bother me. Mom and Dad take turns spooning food into my mouth, and I ignore anyone who is rude enough to stare. But this was different. At school, I eat in a special area of the cafeteria with the other disabled kids. The aides put bibs on us, feed us, and wipe our mouths when we're done. With the exception of that sip of Coke at the competition, nobody on the team had ever really seen me eat, or rather be fed. I didn't know what to do. My food sat there getting cold. I looked at Mom. She looked at me. She picked up the spoon and looked at me with the question on her face. I nodded. Very carefully, she placed a spoonful of pasta in my mouth. I swallowed. I did not spill. I saw Molly poke Claire, and they exchanged looks. Mom spooned one more portion into my mouth. I swallowed. I did not spill. We continued, one spoonful at a time. I was so hungry. Nobody said anything, but I saw them look down at their plates with way too much attention. It got quiet, and even Connor stopped talking. So let's stop there, and I want to come back to, what do you think? Okay, make a prediction. What do you think they were thinking? Everybody got quiet, and they stared down at their food while Melody was eating. What do you think? Michaela, what do you think? No? Okay. Caesar, what do you think?
I think they were just staring at the food because Melody was eating it and she has a disability. So I think they're impressed or something that she's eating her food.
Right, something different. They had never seen it before, right? What about Destiny? Do you have anything to share? Any thoughts?
I think that no, not really.
Okay, that's okay. We'll keep reading. All right. Finally, even though my plate was still full, I pushed it away. Would you like to take this home, Melody? Mom whispered. I nodded yes, hugely relieved, and she signaled for the waitress, who also brought dessert menus. Being reminded of cake and ice cream cheered up Connor, who did not order a whole chocolate cake, but did order 2 slices. Rodney ordered apple pie, while Rose asked for pudding. Claire ended up taking her food home in a box as well. She had eaten almost nothing and barely said 2 words all evening. So what did you think about that final question? That was too hard, Rodney said. Piece of cake, Connor replied, laughing at his own joke, and he smeared whipped cream over his second piece of cake. Did you see the hair on that announcer? Amanda teased. It never moved. Must have been made of plastic, Rose said, laughing. What are you wearing to the DC competition? Rose asked Claire. Claire just shrugged. I wonder if we'll get to visit the White House while we're there, Amanda mused. That would be awesome. I believe it's on our agenda for Saturday, Dr. Deming replied enthusiastically. I'm excited about that as well. So what's with you and Melody being best friends, Claire? Elena asked. Claire didn't answer, but she rubbed her hand over her forehead. I don't feel so good, she said weakly. Is it hot in here? No one had time to answer, for at the moment Claire stood up suddenly, clamped her hand over her mouth, and stumbled from her seat. Are you okay? Mr. Deming asked. Before he could finish the question, Claire threw up all over his new shoes. Oh, gross, Connor said, obviously trying not to laugh. Poor thing, Rose said. Whoa, what a stink, man. Rodney covered his nose. Claire's mom rushed her to the bathroom. Mr. Deming rushed out as well, I guess to clean off his shoes. I wonder if Claire felt as embarrassed as I had while Mom was feeding me. Our little victory celebration was clearly over. Parents gathered coats and checks and paid their tabs. Claire returned from the restroom looking pale. No one mentioned the incident. We all headed for the steps. I thought. Claire gets sick in the middle of a crowded restaurant, yet I'm the one that everybody looks at sideways. They all had to wait for me and Mom. We took our time. Push gently, roll down, bump. Top step. Push gently, roll down, bump. Next step. Push gently, roll down, bump. Third step. 5 bumps down to the bottom of the steps. And I was still so hungry. So that's the end, guys, of chapter 26. I feel like we learned a lot of valuable information in there. I wanted to go back just to the very end part and point out a couple of sentences to you, which I think will be helpful for when you do your writing assignment here in just a minute or two. So the part says, I wonder if Claire felt as embarrassed as I had while Mom was feeding me. And if you remember, back at the beginning, I told you that your thinking job was to think about how Melody and Claire feel during and after the dinner celebration. And you were going to compare and contrast their experiences, okay? And then there was another little part here where Melody was thinking, I thought, Claire gets sick in the middle of a crowded restaurant, yet I'm the one that everybody looks at sideways. So both of these characters, Melody and Claire, had some times during this chapter where they had situations where they got extremely embarrassed and something major happened to them. Okay, so your assignment for today from chapter 26 says, think about Melody and Claire's experience at the restaurant in chapter 26. Okay, so taking us back to the comparing and contrasting. First thing I want you to do is write one way that their experience was the same, okay? How was what happened to them the same? How did their situations, how were they similar, okay? And the second thing I want you to do is write one way that their experience and what they went through at the restaurant was different, okay? So go ahead and take a few minutes and write that down. And when you're finished, you can email it to me. If you see at the bottom of the screen there, it's got my email, Miss Starkey, and it's jstarkey@uplifteducation.org. It's just like Mrs. Green, but it's got J Starkey at the front for my name. Okay, so you want to compare and contrast their experiences at the restaurant at their dinner celebration. Okay, are there any questions before we go ahead and say goodbye for this read aloud? Anything that you want to share that you learned, or any questions you have about the assignment? Any thoughts?
You had a few parents join in for a little bit there, Miss Starkey.
Oh, okay. Well, it's good to see you. Hi, parents. Well, I appreciate you guys for listening so well and interacting with me and answering some questions and sharing your thoughts. And so we are going to keep, I know Miss Green and I are going to keep reading through these chapters so we can get through this book. I kind of came in the middle of this book, but I've really enjoyed it so far. So thank you for letting me read to you today, and make sure that you answer your questions and email them over. Okay? All right.
Awesome. And I'll stop recording there.